How to arrange your beats. If you're a music producer or a beat maker, you definitely need to watch this video all the way through, because I'm going to give you some game on how to really set up your music, set up your beats to sound like songs from the jump. So artists or TV film licensing companies, publishers are interested and attracted to your music right when they listen to it. Okay, so first there's a few things that you need to do when you're creating your music. Before I get into that though, make sure you like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe with the notification bell on, because I'm going to keep dropping these gems to help you get your music production career to the next level. The things that you really need to understand as a music producer or a beat maker arranging your music is that you gotta listen to the track like the listener. You have to take yourself out of just being the producer or the creator of the track. You got to put yourself on the other end and listen from the listener's perspective. The listener wants to hear a story. So you have to get out that mindset of just putting loops together and just filling the space up in the beat just so it sounds pleasing to you. You want to get into making sure that there's structure. Sometimes when we create, we're not thinking of it as a journey. We're not thinking of the music taking the listener on the journey. It needs to take them on a journey. In order to do that, you have to arrange it right. It can't just be a loop on repeat. Here are 5 ways to transform your beat into a full arrangement that actually moves people. Number 1, you have to think like a storyteller. When you're creating music, you have to realize that you're not just creating music, you're creating a vibe. You're creating a story. It's no different than a movie or a book. All these things have one thing in common. They're telling a story, and the story has tension, release, and progression. Think about the whole hero's journey, right? It starts off as a person who's living at the bottom, right? It's basically, in a nutshell, they go from the bottom all the way to the top, or they could be at the top and they fall from grace all the way into the bottom of the gutter, and they got to dig themselves out of the mud. And at the end of the day, it gives them more power, and they end up being successful and victorious at the end. That is what gets the listener and the viewer in the case of a movie, but a listener in your case as a producer, it gets them involved in your music because they feel like they're one with it. And we're living the story just like that, right? I'm pretty sure you've been through pitfalls and you've had to overcome some things. Your life has been full of valleys and peaks. So the music has to be filled with valleys and peaks as well. And so you have to start thinking in chapters. You have to have an intro. You have to have a verse, a hook, a bridge, etc. You have to have these things. Every section of your music is a scene in a movie, and you have to have that mindset when you're doing that. And at the end, you have to think about and when I say end, I mean end of the day, the overall picture. What is the big payoff? What do I want the listener to feel when they're listening to this track? That's where the magic truly starts to happen. Number 2, create dope transitions. You could use this with dropouts or filter sweeps. You could do little sound effects and everything that help take the listener from one scene to the next. So this is going to create contrast and space in the music. You could test this by, have you ever been making a beat and you're creating the chorus instruments, and when you lay out the chorus, you drop the drums right before the chorus? What that's going to do is going to build tension to the listener. You've probably heard this done in songs. If you haven't done it yourself, you should try it. I do it all the time. Right before the chorus comes in, I'll drop a snare out or the kick. Sometimes just even everything out just for a couple of seconds, 2 bars to kind of give them like that cliffhanger. Just like when you're watching a show and you're watching it and they leave you with a cliffhanger before the commercial or the next scene starts to get you at the end of your seat. You want to do that when you're creating the music for your listener and you're creating those transitions and that space and that contrast. You could also use high pass or low pass filters to create more movement in the music. It's really about moving the listener from one scene to the next. Number 3, Switch up the drum patterns and the energy. So you could do this with not only the drum patterns, like I would do this in television film music. So the first half of the beat we create, you know, it's moving, but there's less stuff in there. There's probably like it's more open, maybe some vocal chops. Then when the verse comes in, I'm sorry, the next section comes in, it's more pronounced. There's more instruments, there's more percussion, there's more things going on. It's kind of taking the listener on that journey. I've done this with producing music for artists as well. In the verse section, there's barely anything, just drums, the lead melody, and maybe the bass line. And then once the chorus comes in, everything starts to kind of come alive. It like blows up in the listener's face, and they're really feeling it. That's also going to inspire the artist that's writing the song to create a dope hook to ride with that. One of the best examples of this is the album Dr. Dre's Chronic 2001. That's probably the greatest produced and arranged hip hop album of all time. And I say that because when you listen to it, it sounds like a movie. Every song is a scene, and they transition flawlessly from one to the next. And not only that, not only is the whole album building up like this big wave, every song is building up as a wave in itself. There's valleys and peaks. From the gate, from the first song that you listen to, The Watcher. And that's now I think about it, maybe that's subliminal. He was telling you that you're the watcher in his story. He's saying he's the watcher in there, but he's probably talking to you as a listener. You're the watcher, and you're watching this story unfold song after song. And like I said, in the hook, you'll hear more bounce, you'll hear more elements, you'll hear all the harmonies and stuff come in. It's a dope album to listen to when you're studying arrangement. And that's pretty much the essence of building a song and making it have more tension, more contrast, more power, more energy. Is building it from the ground up, giving it a slow start, then the rise. You might want to drop it off again just for a little bit and build it back up. In that song, The Watcher, you'll hear the first verse is just the bass line, the kick and snare, and there's like a little percussion rattle in there and him rapping. Soon as the 8 bars of the verse, you hear an instrument come in that's like an effect, kind of like a background sound, and it carries all the way through the rest of the track. And then on the second verse, something else drops out, and then it builds back up. It's an amazing journey that he's taking the listeners on. Go listen to that for a reference point. Number 4, play with sound staging and effects. So when I talk about effects, I'm always talking about little risers here and there, maybe even a flexatone, which a lot of West Coast music producers use. You could use car sounds, airplane sounds, all kind of sounds that can help you bring the song to life. If you have a song or a beat that you named Top Flight or Superfly, then you could add like an airplane effect or something like that. Just giving you some ideas so that you can understand what I'm saying to bring this concept to life more. And that's exactly what the effects do. They bring your music to life more. It's just like scoring a film. And as I said before, the films have all kind of effects that help bring the listener into the story more to make it real. Don't just loop a melody either. You can loop the main melody, but if you're gonna do that, then on the second verse, add a layer to it. Layer it with something else. If it's a piano, layer it with some pad sounds to kind of make it float more for that second verse, to differentiate it from the first verse and to give it more flavor, to help it carry another essence and another energy to create another scene and backdrop for that particular version or section of the track. Like I said, every section is a scene. Every section of your beat is a scene of a movie. You could play with all kind of other things to really give it life and bring it to life for the listener and to keep them engaged in the story that you're trying to tell. Number 5, end strong. So an outro. You want to have an outro, you want to fade out, a breakdown, something that differentiates this outro from the rest of the track to make them feel like they're really at the end. Just like you're watching the end of a movie, you know when it's the end. You can already tell because everything points to that. So you have to do the same with your music. So if the bass line was grooving through the whole track, on the last 8 to 16 bars of the track, or however long your outro is going to be, give it a different groove, or just emphasize it. Maybe just hit it on the one. It's really up to you. Be creative with it, but the idea is to give it its own identity so people know when the track is ending and they feel like they've been taken on a journey from the beginning up until this point. Make sure you leave a lasting impression. Don't just let it loop out until the beat stops. Even a fade out alone will help do that. A fade out will give them that idea that, okay, we're riding out now. The wave is settling down. So these are the 5 things that you could do to start arranging your music and make it sound more pleasing to the listener and to take them on the journey as if they're watching a movie or reading a book. You got to think like a storyteller. That's where you start to differentiate being a beat maker and a music producer. There's nothing wrong with being either or, but as a music producer, we get a little deeper into it, right? We get more into the storytelling of it all. A beat maker is just going to make a dope beat and do simple arrangements like, okay, verse, hook, okay, then we're done. We're going to loop it at the end. Whereas a music producer is going to be more into, okay, we're going to tell a whole story with this. The intro's got to be this. Let's put a speech in here. Let's go ahead and sample something. And then the verse got to have these elements at play. We go way deeper into it. As a matter of fact, you should watch this video right here where I tell you the difference between a music producer and a beat maker and how they can actually play into one another and how you could be both and still be successful. Watch this video right here. You definitely want to see it.